So I made a video last week, and on that video, I asked the question, what do you want? And why do you want it? What are the reasons for wanting what you want? And that video sparked a conversation amongst my peers, like people in my circle. We started discussing it and just dissecting it. And, people giving their different perspectives and understanding based on that video. And one of the questions, or some of the questions that were asked was, why does it matter why I want what I want? Why should I concern myself with the reasons for wanting what I want? I mean, I want it, and that's it. Why should I want to know why I want it? It's what I desire. It's what I feel I want. So why should I want to know the reasons behind why I want it? What is the purpose of that exercise, basically? That's what they wanted to know. Why does it matter? Why is it so important? And I thought that was a very, very interesting question. It's always nice to engage with people and just get to hear how they think, And that's the purpose behind doing what I do, is to start conversations. Because when we engage and you get to listen and hear how other people look at things, how they view things, we get to learn from each other. So that was great. And so, first of all, there's nothing wrong with wanting things. There's nothing wrong with wanting a certain lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have certain things in your life. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. We're all free people to decide on whatever we want. It's a choice we all have, right? But I think the reason for me starting that conversation was because I wanted people to introspect and look at the emotions and the feelings of why they want what they want. To understand themselves better. Where does that need come from of wanting what you want? Because you may find that if you really look very closely and very deep, you may find that's not really what you want. There's something more deeper that's going on within you. And it's manifesting itself in terms of you wanting the things that you want. But because you don't ask yourself those questions, then you don't get to understand that. So, whatever you want, where does that need come from? Does it come from a place of unworthiness? From a place of emptiness? From a place of sadness? From a place of a place of fear, a place of trauma, a place of brokenness? Where does that need come from? Because I think that the world is the way it is today because people refused to ask themselves that important question. Why do I want this thing? Where does the need to want this come from? If you look at politics, if you look at religion, you look at racism, you look at tribalism, you look at capitalism. All these things were established in the back of trauma, fear, greed, brokenness. These things were started by human beings. Aliens did not come and just say, let's start a system of capitalism. Let's start racism or whatever. These were systems that were established by human beings. And if you look at the people who established this system, who started these systems, if you look into their lives and you study their history, you find these people come from a background that is steeped and infested in brokenness and dysfunctionality in their upbringing, in their families. These people, when they started these systems, they were full of fear and unworthiness and emptiness. They were sad people, miserable people. And so they started these systems because they felt that this is what they wanted. But because they did not ask themselves that important question, where does the need to want to do this come from? Why would you want to build a system called capitalism that oppresses the masses just so few people can be able to benefit? Why would you want to do that? Because of the refusal to ask such questions, we are where we are today. So people started systems because they come from a background of brokenness. They are wounded people, they suffer trauma, and they grew up with that. And as they grew up with that, and it started to shape the way they look at the world, their approach to life came from that place. And that's why the world has become what it is today. Because of refusal to deal with things. All of these powerful people who have ever lived and that we know of, who have done some of the most horrendous things in our history, if you study their background, you realize they come from a background of brokenness and dysfunctionality. And they carried that with them, and it manifested and reflected in all the things that they were doing in their lives. You can go on Google and look up people, powerful people, these families around the world, these powerful, wealthy, rich families around the world. If you can study their history of how they started their empires, you begin to realize that they come from very violent backgrounds, very dark backgrounds. That's why they became the people they became and started doing things the way they are doing them now. Because that question was not asked. And one of the most fascinating things about us as human beings, one of the problems that I see about us as a people, is the refusal to learn from our mistakes. We've seen what history has shown us about these people. And today, because we refuse to learn from that history, that if we don't deal with our past, if we don't deal with our trauma, we don't deal with our emptiness and brokenness and misery and sadness, if we don't do that, then how we live our lives, the choices we make are going to be made from that place of darkness because we refuse to deal with that area of our life. Hence, it is so important for you to ask yourself, what do you want and why do you want it? What are the emotions and feelings that are attached to that thing that you want? Whatever it is, why do you want it? Why do you do what you do? And when you ask yourself these questions, you're going to remove layers upon layers within yourselves, and you begin to discover things about yourself that you didn't even know because you didn't ask the right questions. That's why it's so important to ask that question. Why do I want what I want? Because if you don't, like those people in the past, and even today, people that are alive today who are in powerful positions, because they refuse to ask that question, they don't want to ask that question. They make the same mistakes that people in the past have made. And we are going to make the same mistakes going forward because we refuse to learn from the mistakes of others. You have leaders, politicians, who do so many things that are so corrupt. And yet they refuse to ask that question. Why do I have the need to steal from the people? They put me in this place. Why don't I do right by them? Yet you want to steal and enrich yourself and your family and your friends and people in your close circle. And you want to disadvantage the rest. Why do you have the need to do that? And for as long as you refuse to come to that place, you're going to continue making the same mistakes. You're going to make the world worse every day. The world is only going to get worse because people refuse to deal with the underlying issues that they have. Yes, it's unpleasant. Yes, it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be. But if we can have the courage to go through that unpleasantness, that discomfort, and go through the darkness, by the time we get to the other side, we are going to be a better people. Wanting things from a place of wellness, a place of wholeness, and a place of peace, that's the best place to live from. It's the best position to live your life from. And when whatever that you want and whatever that you do, you're going to do it with so much joy and so much peace in your heart, because you know that you are whole, you are healed. You're doing all of these things and wanting all of these things from a place of wholeness. You don't have that burden of the need to want to be flashy and show off because you want attention. Because when you were growing up, your daddy was not giving you attention. So when you buy these things, they make you look good and feel good because people are applauding you and validating you and you're feeling good about yourself. So it's not that you want that thing. You only want it because it's flashy. People are going to like it and they're going to validate you and affirm to you, and you're going to feel good about yourself simply because mommy neglected you. Mommy did not applaud you when you at school, when you were doing well. Your mommy and daddy didn't clap hands for you. So you grew up with that bitterness and that anger. And we went on to work very hard in life, and you got money to afford all these nice things. Now you want them because all you wanted was to be applauded and be validated. So you grew up with that emptiness, that you were not appreciated, you were not loved, when all you needed was love. Nothing more, nothing less. If you grew up being loved, you would not have the need to want to be flashy and show off and get people's attention. Which is why it's so important to ask yourself these questions. Why do you want what you want? What are the emotions and the feelings behind these things that you want? What is the real reason why you want these things? Is it because you feel unworthy? So you think by having a certain lifestyle, it's going to make you feel worthy. Why do you feel the need to be part of certain groups? Why do you have that need to want to be part of that? Is there something that you are missing and you feel that group can fill that need? But you never know because you don't ask yourself these questions. So you need to get personal with yourself and ask yourself these tough questions. No matter how uncomfortable it is, no matter how unpleasant it is, we need to ask ourselves this question, because if we don't, we are going to make the world a worse place to live in. We've seen it in the past with people that have done it, and look at where it has gotten us. And for as long as we insist on doing things like that, it means that we're going to repeat the same mistakes that they made. And if we insist on this trajectory, the ending can only be very bad for most of us. So take the time to ask yourself, why do you want what you want? Why do you do what you do? What is the reason behind that? It's a very important question to ask yourself. Because if you don't, it might lead to your own personal destruction, not only of yourself, but of people around you. The reason why there's so much poverty in the world is because of greed. It's one of the reasons. It's greed. And greed comes from fear fear is something that is very dark. And so, because you are this fearful person, and everything that you do in your life, you're going to self-destruct, and not only yourself, but people all over the world. People are suffering because there are people that are greedy. So it's not only affecting yourself, but other people as well. You also are living in fear because of your own greed of being robbed and something bad happening to you. So you are living in your own prison that you have created for yourself. So my hope is really that we really get to, have those discussions with ourselves, those uncomfortable discussions, because it's only then that we can be able to, make better choices for ourselves going forward, so that we not only create better lives for ourselves, but it will also make the world a better place. But it starts with you and me not being afraid to search and dig within ourselves and find out what's really going on down there. Because I'm telling you, even if you keep avoiding it, at some point, it's gonna come back to bite you and everybody else. There is no escaping it. The cost of refusal is too high to pay.